You are listening to Hilary Topper on Air.
Welcome to Hilary Topper on Air. I'm so glad that you had the opportunity to join us. Lately, my life's been full of exciting changes. Recently bought an apartment in Manhattan and brought my Scott Addict bike that I purchased from PlayTry to the city with me. Navigating the busy streets and training in traffic has been quite an adventure. I'm doing all of this to gear up for a massive 569-mile bike ride from Staten Island to Niagara Falls this July to raise money and awareness for cancer research. When you train for a long endurance event like that, you quickly learn that your body needs the exact right fuel. That brings us to an amazing guest today. We have Colin Riley from Infinit Nutrition joining the show. Colin is here to share some crucial insights for all of you runners and triathletes. We will dive deep into personalized nutrition, how to properly manage your hydration, and the best strategies to speed up your recovery after a tough workout. So, Colin, welcome to the show. I know you have a ton of information to share with us today, so I'm going to get started. First off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got involved with Infinite Nutrition?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I've been with Infinite for about 9 years now. 2017 started with the company. I'm a longtime endurance athlete and kind of started off as a runner in high school and then got into triathlons actually at the end of high school and raced through college, did like collegiate nationals, got into like the elite amateur rankings, and then actually raced as a pro for a few years. I also guided a few visually impaired and blind athletes on the like USA Triathlon elite team. So traveled around internationally with a few of those guys and guided them in their races as well. So yeah, done. I mean, hundreds of triathlons at this point, number of marathons, running races and everything like that. And then kind of on the education side, I've got a master's in sports nutrition. I'm a registered dietitian, certified sports dietitian. So always have had an interest for kind of the sport side of nutrition, dietetics, and everything like that. So
All right, so Infinite emphasizes personalized nutrition blend. Can you explain how tailoring nutrition to athletes' specific needs impact performance during long distance events?
yeah, absolutely. So, that's Infinite's whole kind of, you know, whole thing is built around, yeah, the idea of the custom blend and yeah, tailored nutrition. So we just basically believe that when you're fueling with something that's tailored to you, it's going to work that much better than just a kind of standard general off-the-shelf product. There's a number of different things that we have the ability to customize when we're working with athletes on custom blends. So, a couple of the big ones, and we certainly might go more into this as we talk, but flavor and flavor level is such a big one, especially for triathletes that are doing long distance races. We hear over and over again people that suffer from what we call flavor fatigue, and being able to keep all of your nutrition there, all of your calories, all of your electrolytes, and go lighter on flavor is just a really big positive for a lot of people. And then certainly there's a number of other things, electrolytes, carbs and calories, caffeine. We can customize all of those different things to create the perfect mix for each individual.
So let's talk about a marathon versus a triathlon. What are the key differences between fueling for both, and how does Infinite address those differences?
Yeah, so typically with running, we do like to be a little more careful as far as kind of what we're putting in a blend, particularly when it comes to protein. So protein is one of those things that differentiates Infinite from some of the other companies that are out there as well. So when we're working with a lot of our long distance triathletes, half Ironman, Ironman, we actually create two different blends. But We add a little bit of protein into kind of our longer distance bike blends, and that does a really great job of keeping people satisfied and not getting hungry. It ultimately helps eliminate the need for solid food, bars, things like that, that a lot of people gravitate towards. Because certainly, especially with the Ironman distance, if you're out there for 10, 12, 15 hours, there's a good chance you're going to get hungry. But we hear it again over and over again. Oh, I wasn't getting hungry. And that's the whole point of the protein in the blend. So when it comes with the marathons, it kind of depends. It's a little bit more individualized as far as, okay, are you a 3 hour marathon? Are you a 5 hour marathon? Are you getting hungry? So we generally say, no protein for most people when it comes to marathons. But we might add a very small, like 1 or 2 grams of protein into a blend, just to help curb any hunger for someone that's more prone to getting hungry during a marathon. So,
Gotcha. So many endurance athletes aim for 90 grams of carbs per hour. How does Infinite ensure that this is achievable without digestive issues?
yeah, no, that's a great question. So yeah, the higher carb fueling has definitely taken off, especially in the last few years, where with athletes, yeah, kind of pushing that 90 and even up to 120 grams of carbs an hour. I would say, first and foremost, not everyone, may need to go that high. So we have our kind of our full custom platform that does top off at about 81 grams of carbs. So for a lot of people, that level is going to be that 80 grams is going to be sufficient for, some of those longer distance events. And again, we kind of somewhat base it off of body size as well, intensity, how hard is someone pushing it? Because when you're going harder, you do burn more carbohydrates as opposed to when you're staying in that more kind of zone 2 aerobic. You're going to be using a combination of carbs as well as internal fat stores as fuel. So with the, again, high carb fueling, we actually have I say a new product. It's been around for a couple of years now, but we have our premium fructose fuel. So this is what allows us to really target those individuals that are striving for 90 or more carbs an hour. And the way that works is that there's specific carbohydrates get digested and absorbed in the gut different pathways. So specifically fructose is kind of unique in that it goes kind of through a different doorway, so to speak, in the gut. So you've got basically like glucose and maltodextrin and dextrose and kind of all of those carbohydrates that go one way, and then fructose kind of goes a different way, is kind of the easiest way to put it. So that you can kind of think of that one doorway can only take in so much. So when you open up a second doorway, it allows for more carbs total to get in. So that's where that 90, 120, you even see some of these top end elites that are pushing 150, 170 grams of carbs an hour. Again, most people probably don't need to go quite that high. But we're seeing, yeah, great results with some individuals, doing the 90 and the 120.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about sweat rates and electrolytes. So Infinite mentions factoring in sweat rate and electrolyte loss. How can an athlete determine their sweat rate, and why is this critical for hydration?
Yeah, no, another great question. So yeah, so sweat rate testing has been around for forever, long time. So you can do an at-home sweat test as long as you have a scale at home. You can, hop on the scale before you go out for a workout, bike or run workout. Go out, if you do just a 1 hour workout, keeps the math nice and easy, but you can do any duration kind of workout as long as you got a sweat, kind of going. Come back, you weigh yourself, and then we kind of just look at, okay, how much weight did you lose during that 1 hour workout? And then we can kind of come up with a sweat rate based on those numbers. So that's kind of the old school method. Still very, very valuable. Highly recommend doing it if individuals have never done it. Again, especially for those that are doing long distance events, the longer that you're going, the more likely it is for you to get to that kind of dehydrated state. So it just becomes that much more important if you're doing Ironman, versus sprint or Olympic, kind of races. So More recently, there have been some wearable devices that have come up that allow you to measure both sweat rate as well as electrolyte and sodium losses. So this is kind of taking it to the next level. It's something that we're really excited about because it allowed us to, really take those custom blends and customize them that much further. So we can take now that electrolyte and sodium loss and further customize a custom blend, make sure that an individual is getting enough sodium, also not overdoing it. I do see a lot of coaches and articles out there that say, oh yeah, if you're doing an Ironman, 1,000 milligrams of sodium is what you need to be taking. And I don't love those blanket recommendations. I think that can backfire on a lot of people, cause nausea and stomach issues, and especially if it's a cooler day or if you're not a heavy sweater, there's probably not a need to be taking in 1,000. So generally, we kind of look at like 300 to 600 milligrams of sodium as kind of that like starting point. And then when we get some of that data, or if someone is just an outlier, they know they're a super heavy sweater, they know that they're a salty sweater, they have a history of cramping, then that's where we start to look at, okay, maybe we do need to go up, to that 1,000 milligrams or even a little bit above that. So, yeah, I think that was the bulk of the questions there, but yeah.
No, that was good. Thank you. So, what are some of the common hydration mistakes that athletes make, and how can we avoid them?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, not knowing your sweat rate. So going back to the last question, know your sweat rate so you know how much to drink, right? Because if you don't, then you're either potentially drinking too much or not enough. So when it comes to the dehydration, we're typically trying to recommend and minimize dehydration to about 2% of body weight. So for someone that's 150 pounds, that's about only about 3 pounds. 200 pounds would be about 4 pounds. So it doesn't take that much to get to those levels, especially when you're doing long endurance activity. So yeah, definitely get on that sweat test. And then, being careful. We've seen in the past, some people that are out there for long periods of time thinking that, water is sufficient, and water is not a great hydrator. It actually can make it worse in a way. Certainly day to day when we're just, sitting at the desk and working, totally fine just to be sipping on that water. But when you're actually active and you're losing electrolytes, it can dilute your blood sodium level even further, and that's called hyponatremia, and that can be really, really serious, deadly in some cases. So we do want to be careful and make sure that we're getting those proper electrolytes in. Usually, as long as you're not just downing, lots and lots of water, probably not going to happen, but it is just something to be aware of. And that's where those electrolytes are so important. So.
Okay. So, can you share more information about the difference between products like Go Far and Hydrate? And how should athletes decide which is right for them?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, we have our kind of what we call our preset or off-the-shelf mixes. So these work great for a lot of people. So the Go Far is kind of our, endurance, like over 3 hour mix. That's going to be a little bit higher carb, a little higher calorie, has that little bit of protein in it. So great starting point for long rides. If you're training for a half Ironman or an Ironman, Go Far is just a great place to start. And then we can again always circle back and look at maybe customizing it just to get it a little bit more dialed in. Then there's the speed formula. That's going to be kind of the under 3 hour formula. Great option for, 1 to 2 hour bikes, really any running distance. Even if you're kind of getting over that 3 hour mark, we again want to be careful kind of with that protein level. So some people might grab Go Far and train for a marathon with it, no problem. If the gut's a little bit more sensitive, then I would say start off with the speed. And then again, we can always kind of circle back on a custom blend. Hydrate's a nice option just for those shorter workouts that are maybe a little bit lower intensity, where you don't want to take in quite as many, carbs and calories. So it's only 100 calories per serving, a little lower, 200 milligrams of sodium on the electrolyte. So, just again, if you're doing like a 1 hour workout, that's not going to be super hard, but you do want to get something in more than just plain water. That's going to be kind of where that one comes into play.
Cool. So let's switch gears again and look at recovery. So I know that Infinite offers products like Repair and Nocturne for recovery. What are the key components of effective recovery nutrition, and how do these products support that?
Yeah, so when it comes to recovery, we would kind of think about the four R's. So we're talking about refueling. That's going to be kind of the carbohydrate component. There's going to be repairing the muscles. So that's going to be our protein. There's rehydrating. So getting some fluids back in. And then, oh, what's my fourth one? Replenishing. So, getting some electrolytes, back in as well. Again, not just drinking plain water like we talked about earlier. So, hitting all of those different elements of in a recovery drink is really important to make sure that you're hitting all of those aspects of recovery. So, yeah, could you fuel with just a speed or, a carb mix? Yeah, it's going to hit, it's going to get some carbs back in. It's going to help you rehydrate, but it's going to be lacking on the protein side. So getting all of those things is just going to complement itself better and provide a better overall recovery. Typically recommend a recovery after like any session that's long and or hard, and that's all kind of subjective. But if you're just doing an easy 1 hour recovery ride, you probably don't need a recovery drink. You could probably just go in and have your next meal, no problem. But if you did a hard 2 hour, interval bike workout on the trainer, and then maybe you ran off of the bike, that'd be a great time to just get that recovery drink in to jumpstart that recovery process. If you did your long 4 hour Saturday ride, again, probably a good chance that that kind of beats you up a little bit, even if it wasn't a more aerobic workout, just the overall duration of that. Again, good opportunity to get that recovery drink in, get that recovery process going. Obviously, a lot of triathletes do their big endurance volume workouts on Saturday and Sunday. So doing something after that Saturday workout is just going to help you probably have a better, Sunday workout. So yeah, and then with timing, usually we say within the first 30 minutes after a workout is over is kind of that optimal time. The longer you kind of push beyond that, especially beyond 60 minutes, the body starts to kind of slow back down. The metabolism starts to slow back down. So taking advantage of that window, that 30-minute window where your metabolism is still revved up, it's going to get that carbohydrate back into the muscles where you want it. It's going to help start to repair those any muscle damage that might have occurred, and certainly help with rehydrating the body and the muscles as well. So.
Cool. So the other thing that Infinite does is you guys highlight the connection between nutrition and sleep. Can you elaborate how nutrition can enhance sleep quality and overall recovery?
Yeah, I mean, sleep is hands down one of those super important factors that just goes into recovery overall. So, I mean, yeah, the nutrition piece is obviously important, but I mean, if you're only sleeping 5 or 6 hours a night and you're training a lot, you're probably going to be feeling the effects of that. So, yeah, I mean, trying to just focus on sleep, getting enough sleep. Obviously, everyone's kind of different on what they can kind of function on, and but everyone could probably benefit from a little bit more. We didn't really talk about Nocturne in that last question, but yeah, we have that Nocturne product that can help just get a little extra protein and even some carbohydrate in before you go to sleep, just to kind of help kind of top off the muscles, top off the body, especially after a really hard day. So again, talking about those Saturday, Sunday workouts is a good example. You're coming back Sunday, if you tend to struggle to sleep in those instances, there's definitely things that can help just help wind you down and get a more restful night of sleep. So again, that that Nocturne product has a little bit of tryptophan in it. That's an amino acid, just kind of again helps you wind down, kind of doesn't make you like sleepy or groggy, but it can just kind of help you fall asleep and stay asleep a little bit better. So we have a lot of people that really love that one. So certainly there's other things out there like magnesium and melatonin. I kind of go back and, not a big advocate of that. I know some people like that. So we don't do anything with melatonin here. Yeah, tart cherry is another thing that we can add into like a custom protein blend. Tart cherry can help with muscle soreness. It has some natural melatonin in it. It's kind of what I was thinking of with that one. So, yeah, so definitely some different things that can just help make sure that you're winding down, and then helping the muscles recover, while you sleep at the same time.
So let's talk about the custom formulas. How does the process of creating a custom formula work, and what kind of feedback do you get from athletes who use them? So just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so we've always offered a free consultation process. So I'd say that's kind of the best, way to go. You get to actually talk with me, talk through, what activities you're doing, kind of talk through all those individual factors, what races you're doing, and your sweat rate and just all those different things that are going to ultimately kind of impact the custom blend. So free process, we'll just kind of walk you through it. We actually just launched a brand new website a week ago, so really exciting. On the new site, we actually have a quiz that kind of, if you don't want to take the time and do the setup 20 minutes, you can kind of just run through the quiz on your own. It's basically going to ask you all those same questions that I would have asked you during the consult. So great way if you're just want to kind of go through that, and it's going to you're going to put in what activities you're doing, and assuming you're doing some long distance triathlons, it'll give you like a long mix and a short mix, and it's going to be pretty dialed in. So that'd be a good place to start as well. But yeah, just kind of going through all those questions, making sure that it's dialed in for you. It's not just some generic product. There's people that, are long distance swimmers that we work with, and, they have specific needs and preferences as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I have two more questions before I open it up to, the group. The first question is about sustainability, right? So Infinite offers eco-friendly packaging. How important is sustainability in the sports nutrition industry, and what steps is Infinite taking in this area?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really important thing. I mean, obviously, when you're talking about like gels, you've got all the individual wrappers. So, when it comes to Infinite, you just have your one bag. Obviously, it's got the scoop in there, and then you're just filling up your bottles with your 2 scoops per bottle, and then you just have the bag that you kind of toss it after you're done. But at least we're not contributing to gels being out on the roads and the trails and things like that. We historically have still do ship with the UPS like carbon neutral. So every shipment that we send out uses that program that just kind of helps offset some of that carbon, with shipping. So that's just a nice little thing that we do. And then, yeah, I mean, it's an important thing, something that we,
Yeah.
focus on and everything like that. So.
So, and then the last question is, what advice would you give to someone new to endurance sports about nutrition and hydration?
Yeah, I mean, it can be really complicated, obviously. So, when you've got, if you have a coach and your coach is telling you one thing, you're reading articles, about one thing and seeing stuff all over the place. So, there's obviously a lot of products out there. Again, that can be confusing. So again, from our standpoint, we try to just simplify it. We say, okay, one product, drink your stuff, and that's all you need to do. So it just kind of takes a lot of that guesswork out of it. Certainly, there's the other aspects of nutrition as well. Just even daily nutrition and eating properly to support your training. Getting enough carbohydrates in and protein in on a daily basis. All of that certainly can go into it as well. But yeah, I would say focus on it. Maybe don't obsess about it, but make sure that it is kind of a priority. We kind of typically say, nutrition is kind of that fourth discipline. So, and again, especially the longer that you're going, it becomes that much more important. So if you're kind of taking that step up, you've kind of been more of a sprint Olympic distance kind of athlete, but you're taking that step up to the half Ironman or taking that next step up to the full Ironman, you really want to start to take it a little bit more seriously, because it can definitely be kind of a make or break, on your race outcome, from all the different, aspects. Otherwise you could be hitting the wall, coming off the bike of the full Ironman or halfway through, the marathon of the full Ironman. So, yeah, as you go up in distance, just make sure that you're taking it that much more seriously.
Question for you is, what do you mix your uh, nutrition with? Number one. Number two is, I have a tendency of cramping significantly. I mean, I even cramped in the pool this morning. Could I use one of your regular formulas, or do I have to use a custom formula? And how often do you recommend that you drink this on a, say, for example, a bike ride?
Yeah, number of good questions there. The cramping one is definitely tricky. That's one of those things where a lot of people like to say, oh yeah, electrolytes, more electrolytes, should help cramping. Sometimes that's the case, but there can be other, causes of cramping as well. So when we think about cramping, sometimes it can be muscles getting fatigued, and then it's more of a neurological thing where, you have those muscles misfiring essentially. So from our standpoint, we obviously, if we're hitting all of those electrolytes, we're trying to stay hydrated. Again, that can sometimes, make a difference. So the speed formula, has a nice electrolyte. So we have all of our like hydration blends use not just sodium, but sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. And the calcium and magnesium are really nice, high quality forms of those two minerals. So sometimes it's just a matter of, oh, maybe you're lacking a little bit of magnesium, or, just not getting quite enough sodium. So that would be kind of like the starting point. And then certainly, if it continues beyond that, okay, maybe it is one of those things where, yeah, we do need to go to a custom blend, try to increase the electrolytes a little bit higher. If that's still not working, then it may be more of a muscular fatigue, kind of thing. Sometimes it's not uncommon, like, again, especially for people that are training regularly and a lot, if you're going from like bike to swim, that can be one of those things where you're already a little dehydrated. You've already used those muscles quite a bit, and then now you're pushing off the wall, and it's probably a combination of being a little dehydrated from a previous workout, but then also kind of that fatigue, from a bike or a run workout, that's now causing you to kind of just hit that point of muscular fatigue. So
I mean, I think Harold makes a good point here, because this happens a lot with swimmers. They get in the pool, they do maybe, a couple of 100 yards, and then they cramp up. How much should you actually take in when you're swimming, right?
just
Like you're
swimming,
not,
yeah.
yeah, it's a swim day.
Yeah, that's where like that hydrate formula could be a good place to start. Like for someone that's not doing anything, I know a lot of people just kind of like early morning swims, wake up, get to the pool without anything, so maybe they drink some water or coffee, but nothing really else, So getting some electrolytes in there, could just be that little bit of difference of, getting some, yeah, electrolytes in with their fluids. So it's not just water and coffee, in those situations. So
So,
drinking
so would you recommend drinking?
hydrate or the speed, I would say,
Okay,
for
speed.
those kind of, yeah, those
So
ones.
would you say that you should drink a bottle of it before you get in the water or throughout the workout?
Yeah, it could be a little bit of both. It's again kind of like each person's a little bit different as far as, okay, are they actually eating or drinking anything else, beforehand? If they are eating a little something, maybe it is then just, yeah, kind of like one bottle, during a swim session. But yeah, certainly if it's an issue, then, potentially kind of doing a little bit of pre-hydrating, pre-fueling, with one of those products, like at least would be a good place to start, so maybe you mix up a full bottle, maybe you drink half of it, on your way to the pool, and then you drink the other half, kind of during the swim, to keep it coming in. So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So my last question before I let you go is I'm doing a 569-mile bike ride. It's starting in Staten Island and it's going to Niagara Falls. Okay, it's over 7 days, so it's between 60 and 100 miles a day.
okay.
Um, in something like that, how would you hydrate?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly multi-day stuff. It just becomes, again, that much more important. Like, yeah, we talked about with the Ironman to stay on top of it so you're not getting behind, on any given day. So understanding your sweat rate so okay, how much do I actually need to be drinking? Because again, if you're out there for 5, 6 hours, you're only drinking 20 ounces, but you're sweating 30 ounces, now we're talking about a 10-ounce deficit per hour over 5, 6 hours, that's getting to be kind of to that over 2% range that we want to try to minimize. So understanding your sweat rate would be, again, the kind of the first thing on the hydration side. And then just staying on top of the fueling as well. So using the GoFar or the custom endurance blend to make sure that you're getting in those carbs, also getting in, some of that protein. We talked about it more for hunger control, but when a unique thing, when we're talking about multi-day events, getting in that little bit of protein can actually, again, help minimize muscle damage, muscle breakdown, even though cycling is kind of a low, impact sport compared to running. Certainly with that overall duration and the multi-days, that is one of those additional benefits that we don't always talk about with protein, is just, reducing muscle, kind of wasting muscle damage. So, yeah, stay on top of it. We always kind of say that bottle an hour. So just kind of sticking to that bottle or that serving per hour. Certainly if it's hot, you could always add in a little extra plain water, kind of here and there as needed, but the focus always kind of being the Infinit, the one serving of the Infinit per hour can always certainly go up to a larger bottle as well, just to kind of get some extra fluid that way. And then the recovery, becomes that much more important when we're talking about multi-day events and we don't have the opportunity to fully recover. For the average person who's maybe just doing one workout a day, your normal eating, is sometimes enough to kind of just get you back to baseline. But when we're talking about 4 to 6 hours a day, every single day for a week, that recovery window you want to optimize that. And then potentially, again, you may by 3 or 4 days in, because you're so tired and fatigued, maybe you're going to be sleeping great, no problem. But if your muscles are sore, maybe you're not sleeping good. So, looking at some of those things that we talked about earlier, the nocturne at night to kind of help with muscle recovery, help with sleep, as well. So.
Yeah, especially when I'll be sleeping in a tent every night.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Colin. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This show was produced by Hilary Topper and sponsored by the Russo Law Group, Long Island's signature elder law, estate planning, and special needs law firm. For more information, visit vjrussolaw.com. And PlayTry, your multi-sport specialist for all your triathlon needs. They have so many opportunities, including franchising. If you love the sport of triathlon, check out playtry.com and learn more about opportunities, or if you want to shop there, check them out. They've got great prices and they've got amazing customer service.